This is a good example of how unscientific my process is because I was working on a bunch of other stuff. Actually, I had just finished recording Ultima 6. I was writing my next Halloween review because I really wanted to rush it out. So I had a pretty good schedule, and then all of a sudden, my brother comes up to me and asks, "That Jaguar CD, does that work?" And I go, "Not really." He goes, "Oh, I really wanted to try the Highlander game." And that's the reason I got the Jaguar CD, because I was going to review the Highlander game, but I wasn't planning on doing it right away. So I said, "Oh, Jesus, you really want to play it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I want to play it." So I was like, "Oh, fuck." So I'm kind of, when I get into a work mood, I don't really want to change projects. But this was too good a chance to get somebody else to play the game for me, so to speak. And so I spent like all day. I spent like in total, I spent off and on like 3 days just getting the whole thing to work, because even when it did work, it didn't work. And I honestly forgot to credit Miles, my brother, for doing as much work as he did, because he really did sit down and play this game from beginning to end and get me virtually all the footage. That's not to say that I didn't suffer with him, because I pretty much watched and coached him the entire way, you know, trying to get him answers, trying to figure out what the solutions to the puzzles were. So I was pretty much there with him the entire time, and I did pick up the controller and try to get him through a couple points, especially in the really rough early goings when he was still trying to figure out the controls. And so yeah, thank you, Miles, for doing this entire thing basically. So yeah, this is one of those examples where I had my whole, I was really proud of myself. I had my whole schedule cleared, and then all of a sudden, this great opportunity to get all the footage immediately and get this thing done. And there was a very good reason, and I'll get to this, why I basically railroaded this one to the front of the line. And this happens a lot. Pretty much every time I do like a 5-second movie, or when I saw Robo War. That was a really good example of when I saw a movie and I was like, I have to stop everything and do this, like, right now. Right now. Strike Commando was another good one. Every time I see a Bruno Mattei movie, it pisses me off so much I have to go make a review of it, like, right now. So, yeah, this was a good example where my brother was like, I'll record the footage for you. And so we basically worked together on it all night. And I know it seems like I wasn't doing much work because I was just watching them, but, you know, it really does help having someone else to suffer with it through you and make suggestions and kind of sympathize with the really broken fucking controls, and taking up the controller when one person just throws it down and gets frustrated, because we had to get through this thing. So yeah, thanks again. I suppose I could talk about the Highlander cartoon a little bit. I didn't really watch this because I had no interest. It didn't look good. And really, I've seen a few episodes. It wasn't good. But it does have some really diehard fans who say this is among the best Highlander ever got. I would dispute this, just because it does a lot of really weird things. It just... I always hate when they do something with an established franchise, and then they change everything about it, so nothing is familiar, and you can't relate to anything. So there's no common ground in this show. You know, and they even seem to reject any kind of common ground, like Connor McLeod. He's in the show, and then they kill him. Ramirez has been killed twice, and he's in the show. I just don't understand this. And yeah, this a lot of Canadians got really upset at me. And once again, if I may paint the country with a broad brush, Canadians get touchy about this kind of thing, man. If you start to bash on the hockey, you start to bash on the beer. I don't know who bashes on the beer, but like, they get touchy. And so you gotta understand, I'm making fun. I make fun of my country more than anything else. But yeah, don't poke fun at Canadians, man. That whole nice veneer will just vanish, and they'll be like, "Well, fuck you, eh?" And but yeah, my whole schedule went just right out the window when I had to get the Jaguar CD working, because we honestly, when I first bought it, I wanted to test it out. So I plugged it in, I plugged everything in, and I put a CD in. I actually put the Highlander CD in. I pushed the button and it fired up. I was like, holy shit, I got one that works. And then Miles is like, I'll play the game. And so I was like, shit, all right, we'll do this thing. And so we throw this thing down and put the disc in, fired up, and nothing. It's not the red screen. It's a CD drive error. Like, the red screen is what you get when you get a connection fault. Like, if something's not connected right, or there's some weird power discombobulation or something like that. It has to be perfect. It has to be all wired correctly. And even with the nerd, it's not really clear why his Jaguar failed, because it's just a piece of shit, you know. So we plug this thing in, and it doesn't work. It instead hangs on the screen where there's like a CD with a question mark over it, and it means I can't read the CD. And so Miles looks over, he's like, the CD's not spinning. And I go, that is weird, why not? And so we're playing around with it, and I spent like all night playing with this thing, and eventually we just played with it for a little bit, and eventually we closed the tray one time, and it started spinning, and it loaded. I was like, that's weird. Why would it? I honestly thought the motor had failed at that point, and it hadn't. It was basically on its last gasp, but it was failing. So the main problem was it would hang constantly, so we couldn't play it for more than like 5 minutes at a time because it would just freeze. So we'd have to save all the time. And the memory cart in this thing is basically a save state generator because there's no internal memory on the Jaguar. But eventually we figured out, I forget who figured, I'll probably just give Miles the credit, he probably figured out, he's like, it's not spinning because what he would do is there's a catch, you can see it on the very right side of the screen, there's a catch that detects when the drive is closed. If you had it open and you held that down, the drive would spin. And we figured out that I actually looked online, and I started doing a little bit of research for other people who had problems with the Jaguar, and apparently when the lid closes, it crushes the CD against the inside of the drive, and it won't spin. It sucks. So we eventually had to figure out a way where we kind of I kind of lifted it up and put a little piece of like foam padding in there just to get it to lift up off the drive a little bit. And it worked. It still froze up all the fucking time. But, you know, my little hacky method of it worked. And that was the first problem. The second problem, of course, was the fact that the only output available on this thing was an RF switch box. And I can't capture off an RF switch box. It's like anything you pick doesn't work. I've got a DVR device that hooks into my computer. And it does S-video and it does RCA cables. No dice. I have a Dazzle, which again is like S-video and RCA cables, so it won't work. And for some reason, my DVR really freaks out when I try to hook it in through the VCR. I don't know why. Like it captures PS3 and Xbox just fine. It's great, but when you're capturing off the VCR, it's a little wiggy. I'm not sure why. It's something about the signal that comes in. My PVR it doesn't know what to do with it. Okay, I'm techno-babbling, but basically what I had to do was the only thing that I had that would read like a coaxial antenna, the kind that goes into an RF switch, the only thing that would read it is a VCR, because it's made to record off TV, or it was. So I have this old VCR, I loop it in through that, and I have the output of the VCR go out to like a DVD recorder. So I had like this daisy-chained Frankenstein fucking thing where I've looped it through like 2 devices to get to the third, and I finally recorded it. But even so, it's a little less obvious here because the TV's not as big, your screen's not as big, and it actually is cleaned up quite a bit on compression. But the RF switch, the output from the Jaguar CD has this really visible and annoying rippling tearing effect on the left side of the screen. Like basically the left sixth of the screen is this little wavy no. That was a great I'm trying to it really has kind of supplanted the Emperor's no. Oh, I can't believe they left that. That was the best take they could come up with. They're like, okay, dude, it really, like, I didn't show this scene in the review, but when Connor McLeod dies, just before he's about to die, he goes, like, heed my words, Cortan, sounding nothing like Christopher Lambert. He goes, heed my words, Cortan. In maybe a year, 10 years, 100 years, who knows? One will come before me, and he shall be the last of the MacLeods, and he will usurp your throne, and he will end your reign of terror. And the fucking guy, Cortan, he's like, yeah, we'll see about that, motherfucker. And he chops the guy's head off. And so, like, everyone around there is like, you better watch it, Cortan. A MacLeod is going to come, like, she's like 1,000 years from now. I don't know, but like 1,000 years from now, this fucking guy, this MacLeod, he's going to come back. He's going to cut your fucking head off. And Cortan's like, yeah. Meantime, I got this empire to run. And so, first off, this didn't really seem like a really great victory for the forces of good, saying like, all right, Cortan, you won this round, but 700 years from now, shit's going to hit the fan. 700 years. You've won, and we're going to let you win for, 700 years. We could just jump you right now and kick your fucking ass. Like, all of us right now could just jump you and fucking kill you. But we'll let the earth roast and be ground under your jackbooted heel for 700 years. We'll let people suffer and die under your complete tyranny. And in 700 years, you're fucked, man. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, so that was a great plan from the good guys. We're just going to let this sit and just watch as this guy fucking destroys the world. And he does. So yeah. But 700 years from now, the one warning these guys gave Cortan was like, 700 years, some fucking MacLeod guy is going to come back and kick your fucking ass. So what's the first, of course, 700 years from then, he's like, I need slave labor. And that's how the episode starts. Like, some guy comes up to him, he's like, my Lord Cortan, productivity is way down. We need more slave labor. And Cortan's like, yes, we must get someone to work for us, but who? I know, Eric, go hunt in the Highlands and bring me slaves. And Eric's like, the Highlands, really? And he's like, yes, go at once. And so he goes to the Highlands. He goes to fucking Scotland. He suits up his fucking tanks, and he bops on over to Scotland, and he fucking kills everyone, and he gets the able-bodied men and even the women, and he abducts them. He throws them in the tanks, and he drives them back off to Cortan's palace. And you're like, all right. I don't know exactly why, but of course, after being warned that the one guy who's gonna fucking kill him, the one guy who's prophesized, the chosen one, is going to be a MacLeod, he goes right to Scotland. You'd think he'd just leave Scotland alone. He wouldn't go killing assholes in Scotland on the off chance that it's like a MacLeod's going to come out. I guess he wasn't predicting the fact that he's going to go to a Dundee village and find a MacLeod there. I guess. I really can't explain that. I just avoid Scotland. That's a really pressing question, though, is where the fuck did Quentin MacLeod come from? I know it's kind of snarky to say and kind of joke about, like everyone kind of brings this up whenever there's a new Highlander thing, they always say, oh, it's Quentin MacLeod, or in the, like, Owen MacLeod, or even the guy in the anime style version, I forget his name now. Oh, Jesus, what was it? I can't remember. But there's always a new MacLeod, and so they what's funny is they keep trying to raise it in continuity. I assume they do, especially when they tried to cross over the movies and the TV show, when Connor and Duncan would meet, and I don't think they ever really questioned it. They're like, oh, gee, we're both MacLeods from the same clan. It's weird, isn't it? And they just seem to kind of roll with it. And I guess with 2, it's okay, but it kind of got silly at this point when, they did a cartoon and there's like, there's a third one. There's like, this MacLeod family is just awesome. I guess they're just immortality's in their blood. And I guess it's good they never really tried to explain that, but it's still weird. Honestly, they never really should have tried to cross over the movie and the series. It just never made sense. They tried their best to have those worlds collide, but it was just, Connor kept winning the prize, one time after the other. He beat the Kurgan, he beat Kane. I was really happy people liked this sketch, because this was actually harder work than it looked, and I ended up kicking my own ass quite a bit. Because for every camera angle, I had to do this take like twice just for safety and kind of throw myself around. Camera's a really common thing to bitch about, but when it's bad, it's really bad. Actually, the environments in this game aren't too bad. Like, especially for this day and age, the backgrounds are okay, and you probably noticed this plays a lot like Resident Evil. I always said Alone in the Dark a little more, except Alone in the Dark actually had some competent ranged combat. You actually can get a gun in this game, but the gun sucks so bad. You move actually slower when you have the gun, and aiming, good fucking luck trying to aim. But yeah, the camera, not only would it do that thing like in Resident Evil, like in really bad Resident Evil clones, I'm thinking actually of like Dino Crisis. The Dino Crisis and the sequels were really bad about camera. And so I'm sure everyone's had some kind of survival horror game where the rubber chicken. I'm going to explain the rubber chicken in a second. Where the camera would just constantly invert and really throw your entire sense of orientation just right out the window, where you'll be running to the left 1 minute and then all of a sudden, oh, you're running to the right because the camera just inverts. Or you'll be running left and then all of a sudden it goes, like you'll be running down a hallway and the hallway's to the left. And then all of a sudden the character is running straight towards you because now the camera is parallel to the hallway. And so as a result, your character immediately takes a 90-degree turn and just fucking plows into the wall. And you look like a total idiot. Camera's that thing where when it works, nobody mentions it because it works so great you don't even think about it. You know, when camera's bad is when you notice it. And when you notice it, it's all you can ever think about because you're fighting it. You're always fighting, and you're always kind of afraid. You're kind of running forward in leaps and starts, trying to avoid, turning yourself around and losing orientation and stuff like that. So it's kind of one of those funny things in game design where I'm sure people work really hard to get the game to work right with the camera. So when it works right, it's really unsung. And so I try to notice that thing when camera's good. I try to call it out. I go, the camera was really... Because I'm sure there's a guy somewhere... okay, there's probably not. But I'm sure there's a guy somewhere who worked really fucking hard on some of the camera controls for some of these games. And he's like, thank you. But the snipers were probably the worst thing because there's nothing you can do about it. There's just nothing. You got to heal up, run through, get your ass shot off, and leave. That's it. And it's really annoying because... you just... When you get shot, you recoil backwards, it's like a 3-second thing, and you can get shot while in this animation, so you can easily get caught in this loop where they shoot you, and they keep shooting you, and then you die. And you're like, well, gee, fuck you. That's the whole thing. The camera, I honestly think the thing that really pissed me off more about the camera was the fact that when you would fly backwards when you got hit, and you would get caught in between camera angles, and so most of your fights would take place between camera angles. So you'd be stabbing a guy in one camera, so you'd lunge your sword forward, and as you lunged, you'd move forward, cross into the next camera, and then you'd lunge backward to bring your sword back, and then you'd switch to the camera again. And so the Jaguar was not exactly the most powerful device, especially when it came to loading screens. So whenever the camera would switch, it would be about a 2.5 second load to switch cameras. And I actually cut the loading screens quite a bit. I did a little bit of editing to make it a little smoother, especially when it came to the showing the various aspects of combat. Okay, the rubber chicken. I confused people, and I'm sorry. I posted on my Twitter a while back that I said Scarlett spent all night beating me with a rubber chicken, and it was for a video. And so I think when they saw this and they saw the rubber chicken in this video, they were like, "Oh, what was that scene cut or what?" No, that scene's not cut. Actually, this is the reason I kind of railroaded the review ahead, was because the review I was working on, Ultima 6, there's a scene in that where I get beat with a rubber chicken, and then I saw this, and I saw Miles pick up a rubber chicken, and I figured, oh wow, that'd be a great thing to do, where I kind of set up the rubber chicken, and then I do it later. So yeah, you will see the rubber chicken in a new review, and so I probably won't make a big deal about it, but you'll laugh. It'll be a good one. The rubber chicken comes in. There's a hidden cave in the desert level, and by the way, that desert level is like 3 fucking hours of just listening to and so it is a cheat. You actually do have to enter a cheat code. I'm sorry, you don't have to. You can, and I think most people who get the chicken do, but it is entirely possible to find this cave on your own, especially considering the fact that you basically have to go to every single zone in the desert and tear them apart looking for the crowbar and the lever and the various codes. So you'll go to every screen, and it's entirely possible that you will accidentally run into this cave. You can do it. And so you'll find a vase, and if you put a flower in a vase, you get a rubber chicken. You just do. And it opens a teleport, and yeah, I mean, that's it. So yeah, you can use the code, but so honestly, if you see someone run around with a rubber chicken, it's not necessarily a cheat, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that you will finish the game with the rubber chicken, as we did here. Barring the abominable design of this game, the fact that it's really just, you can actually see how it could have been a good game if the controls were worth a shit. Like, you could actually see a Resident Evil, like a really early Resident Evil style swordsman type of story working. Yeah, maybe. It doesn't work here. But what really pissed me off about this one, by the end of it, you were, like, the whole thing is setting up this fight between Quentin and Cortan. And they never deliver that. Not ever. You don't even fight like a mini-boss. You don't even fight anyone. You fight the same guard 1,000 times. And so that's really the grind of this game, is the fact that the whole game is basically like this. You start the game, there's a guard, you kill him. You go to the next screen, there's a guard, you kill him. You go in a room, there's a guard, you kill him. You go to the desert, there's a guard there, you kill him. You go into the next desert screen, there's 2 guards there, you kill them. And so it's like, it's screen, guard, kill, screen, guard, kill. Everything like that is just awful. I realize I may have accidentally set myself up for reviewing the Highlander game for the ZX Spectrum. I think it's for the Commodore 64 as well. Slight problem, I don't have either of those computers. I'm sure someone does, but there's probably an emulator. But I did look for the Highlander game. I did look. I looked into it on eBay, trying to see if there was a copy of the Highlander game, like a legit disc copy, and I couldn't find one. So I don't think that's going to happen, probably because the game, all told, is about 10 minutes long. We'll probably see. But I am going to go back and do... I was actually writing Highlander the Source when my brother suggested he do the video game. So I got a Halloween review. I got Deadliest Character immediately after that. I got Ultima 6. And then hopefully we will finish this with Highlander the Source. So I got a lot of things cooking right now. I actually got like 3 scripts already written. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for watching this, you guys. I hope I have not bored you talking about Highlander yet, because it's always fascinating talking about where Highlander went wrong, because there's so many ways it did.
Oh my God, what's wrong with your face?